Welcome to the Good Business Dufferin Podcast, hosted by the Dufferin Board of Trade through our social enterprise, the Dufferin Biz Hub. Our podcast is based on our belief that small businesses have the power to drive positive change in our community. Our conversations with local experts will help your business thrive, and our talks with community leaders will inspire you to make a difference in Dufferin County. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen our community, or hopefully both, we've got you covered.
Welcome back to the Good Business Dufferin Podcast. I'm your host, Jaemilyn, the Communications Manager here at the Dufferin Board of Trade and the Dufferin Biz Hub. In this episode, we're diving into a topic that's more important than ever, employee wellness, and how small businesses can support their teams in meaningful, trauma-informed ways. Joining me today is a Registered Nurse Psychotherapist from Heart and Mind, Siobhan, who is behind the Employee Wellness Program, a collaborative, small business-built initiative that supports mental health, recovery, and resilience in the workplace. Their approach is grounded in trauma and violence-informed care and offers practical, compassionate tools for employers and employees alike. If you're a business owner or a leader looking for realistic, accessible ways to support your team's well-being, this conversation's for you. Let's get started. So welcome, Siobhan. Thank you for coming today. So just to start off, do you mind just introducing yourself and telling us a bit about Heart and Mind and what inspired to create the Employee Wellness Program?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Like you said, my name is Siobhan Bell. I'm a nurse, and I practice as a nurse psychotherapist. I'm the founder of Heart and Mind, which is a mental health practice. We are founded on three hubs, we'll call it. So it's a hub. We do psychotherapy, education, and we really hope to be very collaborative in our communities. So we're founded on the principle of empowering minds and supporting hearts to heal. That's our catchphrase. But like you said, we're really committed to promoting healing, growth, and resilience, and doing that through sort of our three pillars of education, psychotherapy, and collaboration. And this program in itself, it came out of trying to help people thrive, be safe, and be supported in their workplace. And it was obviously a clear need after talking to multiple small business owners and employees, and specifically post-COVID, the stress and burnout and disconnection just has been really problematic. But having a system or something that's designed that's trauma-informed, but also human-centered, and that fits the reality of a small team dynamic or what can be really high-pressure environments. Anything customer-facing is high-pressured, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is, for those who are unfamiliar with trauma and violence-informed care, why is it important to have that in the workplace wellness today?
It's a great question. It's my belief, anyway, that trauma and violence-informed care is a framework that should be everywhere. It acknowledges both how our past traumas, because everybody pretty much has one, and now that we're post-COVID, everybody has one, but also structural violence, so things like racism, ableism, economic precarity, which lots of people are facing right now. They all impact our well-being, whether that's mentally, physically, the combination, holistically. But in the workplace setting in specific, trauma and violence-informed care is about how do we create spaces where people, employees, aren't re-traumatized by either a toxic dynamic in the workplace or pressure that just feels unrelenting, or even a lack of recognition for the work that they're doing, or the fact that things are not great and you're doing a great job coping. It sort of shifts us from talking about what's wrong with you to what's happened to you and how can we help you feel better supported. And I think especially because burnout is such a huge problem post-pandemic, people are really juggling a lot of what we call invisible stress, and embedding this kind of framework into our practices in the workplace. It's not just about improving or promoting productivity, which I know businesses need, but it's about how are we more human, right? How do we have humanity in the places that we work?
Yeah, of course. And honestly, I think post-COVID world, this is really needed because, like you said, there's so much burnout and stuff in the workplace. And, you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but this is my first job where I feel like it was not a toxic environment, and like my mental health and my wellness is like prioritized, and I don't have to feel ashamed if like some days I'm not at 100%, because I know not just from like my own past work experience, but like people that I know, they work in larger companies where it's easy to overlook these things because you're managing so many employees. So yeah, I'm really happy that this is something that you've created.
Well, you said something really interesting, actually, you know, that some days you're not at 100%. I want to know, where is it written somewhere that we're supposed to be at 100% all the time? Because that doesn't really leave us with a lot of capacity, right?
Yeah. And I don't know, I feel like that kind of goes into, I guess, like trauma and stuff, right? Like if you're expected to like be a certain way and always be at 100, like in your own personal life, like you think you have to apply that everywhere else. So like, I think that's where in my opinion, like the mindset comes from. But yeah. So how does the employee wellness program specifically support small businesses?
So I found when I started my small business that we don't have access to a lot of wellness programs. They're really designed for bigger businesses, right? Yeah. They're expensive to buy into. They require a lot of employees often, and either because of cost or the complexity of it, it's just really not accessible. And a number of nurse psychotherapists, there are a lot of us in the province, have started to really see this in their practice. And one of the things that I find nurses are really good at is see a problem, fix a problem. And so, you know, listening to my colleagues talking about it and listening to small business people talking about it, there are a number of nurse psychotherapists who are now offering employee wellness programs in the community. And this one in particular is built with small businesses in mind who might need to tier or pick and choose, so like an a la carte version of what it is their particular business needs. So it's really flexible. I also wanted it to be really affordable because I know I, as a small business, couldn't afford a lot. So scalable, make sure that the cost is really based on the size and need of that business. And again, very human-centered, right? It's about, what do you need? It's not, here's some PDFs that you can give to your employees. It's not, here's an anonymous call line. It's real therapists, real coaches, because not everybody needs a therapist, right? Yeah. Sometimes people just need a coach, and real relationships with people. So you're going to talk to me, you're going to talk to my associates, you're going to have real relationships with people. We're going to come to your place of business, and we're going to talk to you about what makes sense for you. So that's it.
That's really amazing to hear, especially with the costs that you set, because you yourself as a small business owner is something that you've had to face. But you had mentioned earlier something about how it's harder for people with public-facing roles to sort of handle this kind of stress. So my next question is, you offer coaching, counseling workshops, and even support groups. Could you share how these services help employees, especially in high-stress or public-facing roles?
Yeah. I think in COVID, that was sort of the first time I think some of the public was exposed to this idea that, you know, working at Tim Hortons or working at your local mom and pop coffee shop, facing the customer all the time carries what we call emotional labor, right? Especially when people are struggling. I know when I go grocery shopping and I'm saying to, you know, the person as I'm checking out, how are you doing, right? Because they're dealing with people who are having to cut back on groceries and having to make choices right there before they pay about what it is that they're going to put back on the shelf. That's emotional labor that people are managing right at the cash, right? Yeah. So there's things like customer service, education, hospitality. All of these are things we find in Dufferin County and healthcare, right? We have some small businesses that are healthcare related, like mine, but they all involve emotional labor. And part of that is conflict navigation, right? Fast-paced problem solving. You got to fix it right in the moment, right? So our services are really designed around strengthening those areas, specifically around emotional resilience, communication, trying to reduce burnout, and I think overall improving morale.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that through things like, so coaching is really important for people in terms of helping them to reflect on patterns that they might have or boundaries that they might have and re-engage with their core strengths. So that's sort of the role of coaching.
Yeah.
Counseling or psychotherapy is really about how do we process trauma, helping you to process trauma, managing larger stresses, dealing with anxieties in a way that helps you with your personal growth, your health. And then workshops and support groups are more about collective learning
Mm-hmm.
and collective support and hearing other people say, I feel the same way, right?
Yeah.
And seeing, 5 or 6 people who are like, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's a validity to that people really need.
Yeah, that's actually really neat because I didn't know that. I used to always differentiate the two with just counseling and then group.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that coaching and counseling were differentiated,
Mm-hmm.
but that's really good to know.
Yeah.
So my next question is, what are some common issues or stressors that you're seeing in today's workforce, and how does that employee wellness program help address that?
So I think, like I was saying earlier, some of the big ones are that emotional labor piece, the morale, stress and burnout. People are feeling very disconnected, whether it's from their loved ones, from the community, from themselves. I would say quite a fair number of people that I'm seeing in counseling right now are just struggling to feel connected with who they are and how that fits into the bigger picture. And I think in a post-COVID world, people are like, I just really want to know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? And how do I fit within the context of my community? And especially since people had challenging relationships often through that period and continuing on now. So we are in a different world now, I think,
for sure.
Politically, socially, healthcare wise, I think we're all in a different world. And so we're navigating things that we maybe haven't before.
So what are some things that employers should look for if emotional distress is sort of happening in their workplace?
That's a good one. I think the obvious one is, an increased sick time. Right. I think for employers, that's an obvious one. If somebody is missing a lot of work because they are just unable to cope, they are ill. Not being able to cope is being ill. That's a big flag. I said, but what I would really hope employers are doing is paying attention to the smaller things before it gets to that.
Yeah.
So things like being more forgetful, things like something they used to do really well they're struggling with, having more expressions of frustration, having personality changes even, right? Like where maybe they used to be outgoing and bubbly and now they're quieter and more reserved. People tell us when they are struggling. We just don't often always pick up on those signs.
So how does it work if someone is, there's this term that I've heard a lot, but high functioning. So people who are high functioning, dealing with emotional distress, like I'm sure that's a bit harder to tell what's going on and what signs are there. So how would that work?
Yeah, well, you're talking to high functioning. So it's, often high functioning goes hand in hand with things like neurodivergence, right? So people who are, really good at multitasking for multiple things and keeping 10 balls in the air instead of 5. So when we call it capacity changes, often you're seeing that in frustration, emotional tolerance. Physical signs can also be changes in how they might be eating, not taking breaks, where maybe their calendar used to be really organized. Now their calendar's not so organized, right? But overall, people who we would, colloquial label high functioning, they're the same as everybody else. The flags are there. You just have to know them, because again, very unique to the person. You need to know them well enough to be able to pick up on them.
Well, that's good to know. So you had mentioned earlier the cost and how it's affordable. So many small businesses worry about affordability. How does your tiered pricing and flexible pay-as-you-go structure work?
So basically, it's meant to be you pay for what you need. We have options ranging from flat monthly rates that would encompass like occasional supports and bundled packages, or you could just do a la carte, like your team and that maybe they just need some of these smaller pieces, and then we can just put together a package that comes with those a la carte parts. But the important piece to know about cost is that it's scalable. So we can, go as small as you need to as big as you need. And that's what makes it flexible in terms of price.
Oh, that's awesome. So you had mentioned an a la carte. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about like those add-ons, does that include like one-on-one with employees?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And is it strictly work that you have to talk about? No, if it was easy for us to separate work and home, if I had that magic wand, I'd be really popular. What we experience at work transfers home, even for people who I used to think that, going to work as a nurse would be like, take my nursing hat off and leave it outside the house and all of my problems at work stay at work. Our brains don't work like that, even when we think they do. Sometimes it just takes a little while before it catches up to our cognition. But no, you definitely, what you have going on at home can be impactful at work. What you have going on at work can be impactful at home. So one-on-ones with a psychotherapist or a coach are meant to help you be a better overall wholesome person, however you define that, because the benefit to you being that is going to pay dividends in your work life and your home life. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what kind of feedback have you received from businesses or employees who participated in this program so far?
So I think this is originally why I wanted to make this bigger, is because feedback from people who've been in the program has been pretty powerful. I think because our packages are such that it's really about what's unique to that team. And so we're really focusing on how to build strengths specific to that person or that team or that employer. Mm-hmm. And that gives us the ability to see big change. So I think, for example, one of the feedback that I had was that, the program gave our team breathing room. It built stronger culture. It gave us things that, traditional team building exercises couldn't. And that's because we're dealing with things now that traditional team building exercises can't deal with.
Team building, I didn't think of it as, I always thought team building was just learning how to work together, not going on a deeper level. So that's really good to know that that's something else that you offer as well. Mm. So what would you say to a business owner who wants to support mental wellness but doesn't know where to start?
Start small. Start small, start human, right? Just start with connecting with people. You don't have to overhaul your whole business. You begin by saying, what do we want to do better? And then you invite experts in that are going to help you with designing what that looks like for your business, right? Whether that's a workshop or whether that's coaching, or whether that's some support groups, or whether it's, people are really having a difficult time accessing mental health support. I want to do a package that offers them some one-to-one therapy. Depending on your specific business, look at it, but start small. Start from a foundation of how do I want to build workplace wellness? Mm-hmm. and bring in somebody like myself and my team, and we're happy to help you define what is workplace wellness for you, and then grow from there.
Awesome. So if someone listening wants to explore implementing this in their business, what are their first steps?
So reach out, book a free consultation. You can find us through our website at heartmindhub.ca. We'll walk you through options. Of course, consultation is always free. We'll talk about your team. We'll talk about your budget. We'll talk about what your goals are. And then from there, we'll create a plan that's going to fit.
Awesome. And so if someone wants to find you or connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, through the Dufferin Board of Trade, or BizHub, of course. That's how I've found most of the small businesses here. And our website's probably the best place to go. And you can definitely email us at EWP, so Employee Wellness Program, EWP at heartmindhub.ca.
Awesome. And are there any parting words that you'd like to let our listeners know today?
Take care of yourself, take care of each other. And when you're at work, try to focus on being well, because that is good for you and it's also good for business.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing such valuable insight into the Employee Wellness Program. Heart and Mind is helping make workplace wellness more accessible, inclusive, and supportive, especially for small businesses. To our listeners, if you're ready to bring wellness into your workplace or want to explore trauma-informed strategies for your team, we encourage you to connect with Siobhan. Be sure to follow us on social media. Stay tuned for more Good Business Dufferin episodes. And until next time, keep doing good business, because good business is good for everyone.